Start by pressing your fabric with right side of the fabric facing out and selvage edges matching to press a fold opposite the selvage edges. Carefully trace, label, and cut each pattern piece in paper. There should be a front and back skirt and a waistband. Pin the center front skirt pattern piece to the folded edge of the fabric. If you're cutting a print, make sure that your pattern piece is laid in the proper direction. The back skirt needs to be measured so that the selvage edge is parallel to the grain line. The waistband also needs to be parallel to the grain line and measured. Afterward, cut carefully around each piece with fabric shears. Remove all pins from each pattern piece, making sure you do not separate the pattern pieces. Take your tracing paper with chalk side facing outward and fold it so that the insides of both sides of the fabric will be marked on the wrong side of the fabric. Using your tracing wheel, mark starting at the mouth of the dart, marking the dart legs toward the apex of the dart. Be sure to mark a limit line across the apex of the dart so that you'll know later where to stop stitching. Lay all of your skirt pieces out. Unfold the front skirt piece so that it will reveal a dart on each side of the skirt front. Separating the two back skirt pieces, it will reveal a dart on the left back skirt piece and the right back skirt piece. Start pinning the dart legs, starting at the mouth of the dart, going in on one dart leg, coming out on the other, squeezing the dart excess to find the center, and pushing your pinpoint through. You are essentially pinning the dart in half. Continue to pin the dart, moving in the direction of the apex, and stick a pin in at the apex of the dart. Next, you will baste with hand sewing in a contrasting color thread the stitching line for the dart. Starting at the mouth of the dart, continue to stitch, moving over and under your pins in the direction from the mouth of the dart to the apex of the dart. Leave approximately a 2-inch thread tail both at the mouth of the dart and at the apex for easy removal later. With the machine set on number 2 stitch length, begin to stitch the dart starting at the mouth of the dart and stitching off at the limit line on the apex of the dart. After stitching this dart, making sure that you back tack at the mouth of the dart and leave thread tails at the apex, make sure you trim the thread tails at the mouth of the dart and knot off the thread tails at the apex of the dart, tying it twice. Using the pressing ham at the iron, carefully press your darts toward the center of the skirt piece. The back darts should be pressed toward the side seam first and end up facing the center back seams of each skirt piece. Then flip the skirt to the right facing side and press the dart flat on the front, again using the pressing ham. The front skirt panel piece should have darts pressed also toward the side seam first and then toward the center of the skirt panel. Then flip the skirt to its right facing side and press the darts nice and flat toward the apex using the pressing ham. Place the right side of the front of the skirt face up on the table surface. Then proceed to place the back skirt panels face down, right side face down, so that right sides are facing each other before pinning. Start to pin, matching up the side seams at the hip line at the waist, perpendicular to the side seam. The pin should be spaced approximately 1 to 2 inches apart. Continue to pin, moving down the side seam from waist to hem. Continue to do this on the opposite side of the skirt so that both side seams are pinned together. Stitch both side seams at 1/2 inch seam allowance with a number 2 stitch length, making sure that you back tack, starting the stitch and ending the stitch. Using the seam roll, be sure to press both side seams open and flat, and then press the seam on the right side of the fabric. With the wrong side of the skirt facing you, serge both layers of the side seam allowance on each side of the skirt together. At the center back of the skirt, serge one layer of the center back edge to finish the area where the zipper will be applied. This will be serged on the back right skirt panel and the back left skirt panel. Trim all excess serger tails. Prepare the invisible zipper by opening the zipper and pressing the zipper on the back side, rolling the teeth forward to press the back of the zipper flat. The teeth should move toward the front of the zipper. There should be a clear zipper stop at the top of the zipper. Measure above the clear zipper stop a 1/2 inch and mark with chalk. Trim any excess zipper twill tape above your 1/2 inch marking. With the right side of the fabric facing you, with the back panels of the skirt face up, start pinning the zipper, which should be right side face down, to the wearer's back left side of the skirt. You will be pinning the right side of the zipper twill tape to the back left center back edge of the skirt. Make sure you line up the top of the twill tape with the waistline of the skirt and the right edge of the twill tape with the serged edge of the skirt. Start pinning going in and out of the twill tape from the top of the zipper down toward the zipper slider and stop. Install the invisible or concealed zipper foot onto your machine, making sure that you line up the zipper coils in the left-hand side groove of the zipper foot. Starting at the waist, start stitching with number 2 stitch length, back tacking at the waist, stitching down toward the completely open zipper slider, and back tacking once the foot bumps into the zipper slider. Take the zipper and the skirt out of the machine, trim your threads, and close the zipper to prepare to pin the next side of the skirt. With the zipper closed, take one pin and pin the remaining back wearer's right side of the skirt with the right side of the fabric onto the right side of the zipper. Once the first pin is applied, open the zipper and lay the zipper down on that side of the skirt, flat on the table, and continue to pin like you just did the first side. This time, the zipper coil should rest in the invisible zipper foot under the right-hand side groove. Start stitching at the waist using number 2 stitch and back tacking. Continue to stitch toward the open zipper slider, back tacking when you bump into the foot. Take the skirt out of the machine and trim your thread tails. Be sure to close the zipper at this point to make sure you have not stitched too close to or on top of the invisible zipper coils. To finish the remaining seam on the center back of the skirt, you will need to install either the top stitching narrow hinged foot onto the machine or the righty-lefty zipper foot. Pin the remainder of the center back seam with right sides facing. Both center back edges should be pinned together, going into the serged edge and out of the fabric. Lay the center back edge of the skirt under the machine, lining it up at 1/2 inch seam allowance with the zipper and seam allowance on the right side of the zipper foot. Your needle should be very close to your actual zipper stitches. Make sure you're not catching your zipper or any seam allowance that is folding under the zipper on the underside of the skirt. Start stitching about 1/8 of an inch right next to or on top of your last zipper stitches to continue the stitch without having a hole or causing any pleating. Back tack at this point. Stitch your number 2 stitch at 1/2 inch seam allowance from the bottom of the zipper down to the edge of the skirt. Using the seam roll, press open the zipper seam below the zipper. Flip the skirt to the right side and using a pressing cloth, press the zipper portion on the right side of the skirt nice and flat. Be careful not to hold too much heat over the zipper, it could melt. Separate the paper pattern piece for the waistband and take the pins out of it to remove it from the actual muslin piece. If you desired a wider waistband, you should have cut 2 waistband pieces in fabric and 1 in interfacing. If you desired a smaller or skinnier waistband, you should have cut 1 waistband piece in fabric and 1 in interfacing. Using the presser or an iron set on the steam setting, apply the wrong side of the interfacing or adhesive or bumpy, shiny side of the interfacing to the wrong side of your fabric waistband. If using an iron, make sure you're using a pressing cloth to not transfer adhesive to the iron. Once the two fabrics have fused, you're ready to apply the waistband to the skirt. Once you have prepared and fused interfacing to the waistband, for the single band, fold lengthwise the waistband so that right sides are facing. Start pinning the short end of each end of the waistband with right sides facing. You will put in a number 2 stitch at 1/2 inch seam allowance, making sure to back tack at the folded edge and at the open bottom edge of the waistband. Trim the seam allowance down to about 1/4 inch while also trimming the folded corner diagonally, making sure you do not cut your actual stitch threads. Using the crease turner, fold out and flip and work out to a point each pointed corner of the waistband. Using either the presser or an iron with steam, line up the open bottom edges of the waistband and make sure you press the band flat, steaming it to make sure there is a crease at the top of the band. Pin the waistband to the right side of your skirt, starting at the wearer's back right center back edge. You will be lining up the side seam of the waistband exactly on top of the zipper, making sure that the twill tape is folded behind and not laying flat. If you are sewing using 2 bands, you want to make sure that you are pinning the fabric only portion of the band to the right side of the skirt. If you are sewing using 1 band, you will pin one edge, just matching that edge with the waistline of the skirt. Be careful to make sure that you pin down each dart in the proper direction that it should face on the skirt, as well as pinning the side seams so that they both face toward the center back edge or the zipper edge. Stitch the waistband seam starting at the very seam on the side of the waistband, stitching over the zipper. You should be stitching with 1/2 inch seam allowance from the top of the waist. Back tack over the zipper, stitch the entire waistline seam, and back tack when you get to the other end of the zipper. You will have a waistband extension. We will trim this in a few steps.